Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, I hope that you're doing well. You are ready for some Computer America. We have a great show planned for you where, hey, we have Nathan Evans, the one, the only, Popzara magazine, if as Craig used to call it, but popzara.com if you'd like to reach them. Don't try popzaramagazine.com unless he has that redirected, but still, popzara.com for tons of different reviews, games, books, anything pop culture really, and even beyond. So definitely check them out. Nathan Evans, managing editor, and always a fun correspondent to have here on the show. And hey, it's going to be a lot of fun. So before we get started, everyone, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including today's show, past shows, future shows, podcasts, articles, reviews. We have a couple new reviews up, including an Alienware 31-inch monitor, and I'm sorry, a 34-inch monitor, 34.1-inch, if I'm being super pedantic. There's also a recent review of the Aurora Nanoleaf, the smart lighting. So you can check out those reviews and more. We're working on getting more articles and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I think I need to take a page out of Popzara's book and get a lot more contributors. But hey, if you're looking for some content, Computer America. If you're looking for a lot of content, popzara.com. So everyone, there's my spiel. Find us on social media at Computer America all over the place. Let's go ahead and get started. So you may have heard him slightly in the background, but let's get him in the foreground. And once again, Nathan Evans, managing editor of Popzara magazine and Popzara. Nathan, how you doing? Welcome back on. Oh, whoa, wait. Okay, now go. You're good.
Oh, what? Am I good?
I had you on mute. That was my fault. Go ahead.
The power you broadcasters have with that muting button, you think you could just stomp over everybody.
I just throw it around, yeah.
Meanwhile, no one can hear me because you muted me. No, I was going really quick. You and I hung out with each other in January at CES this year, remember?
I recall.
So I discovered two things. One, that I probably got COVID-19 at that damn show. Mm-hmm. And two, I haven't had a haircut since then. So that one of the benefits of not having Zoom is you can't see how scraggly I look. I realized something that I never knew. I have curly hair.
Really? How did you never know that? And of course, the few times I met you, you of course had it cut short.
Yeah, short hair. No, yeah. I have curly hair, and it's curling all up. I look like Mark Hamill in the first Star Wars, and so it's crazy. It's like I never knew that about myself. I'm learning something new every pandemic. So.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people are sporting their pandemic haircuts or lack of a haircut. And, of course, anyone out there can see the show. They can see me. And I think since you were last on, I actually got LASIK. So I don't know if...
Did you get LASIK?
Yeah. I just got it like 2 weeks ago or something like that.
You're not wearing glasses?
Nope. No glasses, no contacts, no nothing. It's all...
How is it? Any prisming or anything?
Yeah, just a little bit. They said that should go away, but overall, I mean, even if it stayed exactly where it is right now, I'd be super happy with doing it.
I'm very happy for you. I'm not a candidate for LASIK because I have dry eyes.
Yeah,
but no, it looks good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. They said that would be one of the side effects, and they're super worried about it. But so far, no real side effects, and everything should be going well. So,
congrats. It looks good.
I decided to take off the glasses, grow out the beard, grow the hair long, and turns out I can do a halfway decent kind of Nordic Viking kind of look. So we're gonna go with that for a little while.
The only thing you're missing is a fedora and a harmonica, and you could be in a blues band.
Well, drop the fedora, because that is so common on the internet. But instead, we're going to go ahead and continue on with the show here. And hey, everyone, I highly encourage you to check out the video portion of the show, so you can follow along with the articles and what we're talking about. And hey, it's just another component to what we do here. So Nathan, since you last been on, hopefully you're doing well, staying safe, all that good stuff, keeping yourself entertained, and kind of doing that kind of thing. So let's going by all the different lists that you have here, and then we'll get into some other conversations in a bit, but we're going to touch on a lot of different topics. Actually, I'm being rude. Before we even get started, you can see Popzara there up on the screen for those listening. What is it that you try to do with Popzara and your amazing cast of contributors? Because I've met a lot of them. They're very passionate about what they do.
Well, it's a good question. Long story short, the internet needs reviews and it needs criticism. It doesn't have enough. So it needs more. It needs more opinions about things. So no, it needs better opinions, but it also needs happiness. It needs a little bit of positivity. And not to toot my own horn, but toot. We do try to be positive. We do try to represent sort of an apolitical view of the entertainment industry, specifically as it aligns with things like video games, movies, technology, books, and all that. We got a dinosaur. And I will say this, I'm really happy. We're in the process of doing some rejiggering and some fixing and nip tucking. Mm-hmm. So hopefully in the next few weeks, the website will look a little better, a little more modern. We're aiming for a 2015 look. So it's fun. It's survived. It's always kind of fun to see how a website like ours survives compared to others, because there's not a lot of I want to say investment. There's not a lot of financial incentive to a website like ours when the focus is more on creativity. Mm-hmm. And so, and you saw that when we were at CES this year. You make relationships with companies, small and big, and they remember you. They remember who you are because you remember their name, you remember who they're about. And to be honest with you, that's what we like, and that's what's been so hard about the pandemic, is that we've been missing out on a lot of that human interaction. And
and actually, speaking of which, since you've last been on, it happened like earlier this week. CES announced that they're doing strictly online. So one of the biggest exposés, obviously, you have Comic-Con, E3. I'm sure that pretty much any large convention you can think of, they've all been either canceled or turned to a virtual event. I think BlizzCon has long since announced that they're going to be virtual as well. If you're looking for that human interaction, it's still going to be about another year. Another year before any big event kind of happens.
You and I talked about this before. Is that not so much as an excuse, but the COVID-19 coronavirus thing doesn't necessarily mean that conventions have to be closed. I mean, your local Walmart's probably open.
Of course.
So it's not necessarily that. What it is, it's an opportunity for companies to reinvent and, let's just say, find more economic ways to do these shows. And again, I'm not trying to say that they don't care about your health, but dollars to donuts, that if I was called to testify for Congress and asked why every single one of these companies is canceling their thing, they're not canceling it because of safety. They're canceling it because they want to find cheaper, more economical ways to take advantage of streaming technologies, of new ways of advertising to the consumer. You're my favorite show, E3, for example. That show has had a troubled history. But the fact of the matter is that the old way of getting everyone together, getting journalists together in a room, divvying out status, access, and information so it can go on 5 magazines, it's over. It's gone. It's obsolete. And so
E3 famously a couple years ago let anyone who wanted to pay like $1,200 get a ticket and get inside. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you have streamers. You have social not social. I don't know if I'd call them social media at this point. You have streaming people with audiences that are larger than, let's just say, the nightly news. If you're going to watch CBS nightly news for 5 seconds of E3 or CES coverage, it's not worth it.
Yeah. When
you could have streamers out there that give dedicated fan bases, and that's cool actually. Like, I'm not a big fan of streaming, but I am a fan of tailored media. You're just a young whippersnapper, but your dad probably knows this. That's why he keeps calling us magazine. Back in the old days, talk to Craig about this. in the old days, they would have tailored magazines for specific genres. You still got it. PC Magazine, Fishing Digest, Golf Monthly.
I was subscribed for a short time to Nintendo Power. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though. But you see these magazines in dentist's office, right? But the fact of the matter is that if you read these magazines, you're going to see advertising for products that you would never see in Time Magazine. You're going to see like the 2018, lurid fishing reel with die-cast metal. Or you're never going to see an ad for an Nvidia video card.
No, like if you get
Monthly.
If you're getting like one of those HGTV magazines, it's pretty much the entire show lineup, and then it's all the ads just thrown in there, and here's a new deck you need. Yeah,
exactly. But I will say this final thought. Going back to esports, you and I are famously combative about the future of esports. I still maintain they're never going to be mainstream in a way, but I am going to concede a little bit that. One thing I never really expected the pandemic to wipe out so much traditional exhibitor sports. Like I saw baseball on TV the other day, and I think baseball is dull as dirt. I think it's the most boring sport to watch on TV, and they somehow made it more boring by taking it like people like cardboard people in the stands. It's surreal.
They tried a couple things. They hired a company that does like the actual sporting games, and they tried to get them to essentially overlay an audience there, and people were tweeting about that. They said that like in one the only camera that had it, they only did it for like the home field high above kind of camera, or I'm sorry, the home plate camera, and every other camera, like every time they kind of do side shots or close up of the people, they did not have the digital crowd anywhere. So it was like crowd there, crowd gone, crowd there, crowd gone.
It looked like watching like sports games from like the Super Nintendo days, where you see like a bitmap, and the bitmap would be flat like a Mario Kart stage. But the fact of the matter is, without the people there, you don't have a sport. I'm sorry. You have the players, you have the referee, you have people approximating playing a game. But without the human content, it is nonsense. It is worthless. Like I can't imagine anybody like it. It just feels fake. It feels perfunctory. And when you watch esports and stuff like that, I never really thought about this before with the Twitch thing. But the idea that people could interact one way or the other, in small doses, in small crowds, in small venues, I think could work.
Esports.
As a limited way, but not major, no.
Don't get me wrong. Some big events, and especially things like League of Legends, they famously sold out a number of arenas, and they had 100,000, 150,000 people in arenas, and it was very, very impressive. The majority of esports, though, and I'm thinking of like actually Overwatch League in particular, they have like a kind of like a TV studio kind of setup where they have maybe like 100 audience members all kind of doing their thing, and the human element is something, but to see kind of the chat room, and I think there's a lot of room for improvement there, but the chat takes on a life of its own when you have 10 20 30,000 people all reacting to the same content. That's almost like the exact same thing you're talking about. Like that is the human element, even though it's very
exactly. It's set up because it was set up at the beginning. Like it's always been part of it. And like I said, you need the human element, but the human element from esports comes from the chatting and comes from the interaction online. Right. But again, it's never, to me, I don't like wrestling. I don't like WWF or WWE or whatever the hell they call it.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
But that's the format for esports, because they don't have stadiums. They rent out convention centers. They rent out this and that. It's smaller crowd size, very passionate fans, all cheering on this, what they think is a real sport, but they're cheering on the athleticism. And so when you have a crowd of people watching League of Legends and interacting on a smaller level, I think it works a lot better. But what the hell did we watch with that MLB stuff? That is creepy as hell. Like that is, it's not worth it.
It's going to be what it is, for the next foreseeable future. And
I hope it fails, and I hope it crashes and burns.
It's disgusting. we actually had a company on the show that's trying to fix that to a smaller extent, and they were a very interesting interview, but I don't know how much it's going to catch on. Essentially, they created an app for these individual games, and you tune in, and you can have your phone out while you're watching, which I think most people do anyways. But then they can kind of tap a button to like cheer or applaud, whatever, and all of the signals from everyone with the app could be combined and then played through the loudspeakers at the stadium. So, you can have applause, you could have boos, cheers, things like that. And like the crowd would create the fake crowd, I guess, at the stadium. And again, it was interesting. They're working on it.
Well, yeah, they can work on turning water into wine. But I'll say this: there was an old commercial years and years and years and years ago where people were outside at this beach, and it was one of those Footloose things where no singing after 10 o'clock or no dancing after 10 o'clock, and everyone had their iPods on, and you saw the DJ put his hand up in the air, and everyone's like, shh, and they all played the same track in their earbuds, and they're all dancing individually to their own music, right? And I thought to myself, that's so damn depressing. It's like, that's not what it is. Like, people who do this, they don't understand how humans interact. Here's the thing. You go into a movie that's crap. The movie is garbage. It's no good. But you get 50 to 100 people in that same movie theater, that dumbass movie. You're laughing at stuff you would never laugh at because the human element softens it. It softens it. You listen to music you would never listen to. Like, oh, you know what? Nickelback's not so bad in a crowd. No, Nickelback's terrible, but it's tolerable when you're in a stadium because you're part of the people. Like, I think baseball's dull, but you give me tickets to a game, I'm going. And the hot dogs are gross, but somehow they're magically good when you're there. Everything is better when you're with people.
That $10 beer sounds like, well, maybe I could. Maybe that is worth it. Yeah.
I mean, you saw this. I mean, you see this, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but that's why I think when they cancel these shows, they're figuring it out.
Yeah.
How can we make this better?
There's not a lot of good answers to it, and of course, I think everything that these companies and organizations are trying to do, especially with, although you mentioned baseball is on the verge of kind of being canceled depending on how many players. Like they said, if a team is unable to play because of COVID, then they're going to cancel the season. The NBA has essentially everyone in giant hamster balls running around. They're not allowed to have any contact with the outside world. There's a lot of strangeness going on, but. Okay, let's transition because, hey, we spent a good chunk of time on that. And this first article, though, very interesting. I had not heard about this. I'm glad that you brought it to my attention. I have been keeping up with Halo Infinite. And Halo Infinite is, I'm
so sorry for your loss.
I love it. People are very critical. And I know that you're saying that, there needs to be more critics and, more reviews on the internet, which I'm sure was partly sarcastic to an extent. But people are so harsh on things that are like just there to build hype and kind of give you like here's what we're working on.
Okay, you're referring to Microsoft's big extravaganza last week where they showed off stuff.
They showed off 8 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah, they showed off some gameplay, and here's the thing. I didn't hate what I saw. We're talking about a demonstration of Halo Infinite, a game that was supposed to be released for the Xbox One X. It was promised to be a system seller. Didn't happen, so it's been moved over. This is a situation that Nintendo does all the time, where they have this sort of crossover between the last and new generation of consoles. We saw it happen twice with Zelda titles. Breath of the Wild, the best-selling game for the Switch, was meant to be a Wii U game. Nintendo very, very wisely realized no. So they moved it over to the Switch. They still made it available for the Wii U. Some people bought it, but generally speaking, it's considered a Switch game. It was built on older technology. Same with Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite, for those who don't know, is not made by Bungie. It's made by a company that's 343, a company that is basically cast off and leftovers from Bungie. And to be honest with you, I'm just going to say this. I'm a big Halo fan. I'm playing Halo 3 right now on Game Pass. Halo 3 is awesome. Halo 3 is a great game. I just finished Halo 2. I'm going through the series on the Master Chief Collection.
Yeah.
But at some point, it becomes obvious that the talent is not there. And that happened during Halo Reach, which was the sequel to, and because Bungie left for other things. And so that we have the leftovers, which is 343 Studios, a company that has, to be charitable, not handled the Halo franchise particularly well. They botched the rollout of the Master Chief Collection.
But to put it a little bit into context, that was when these games reached, especially they had ODST, which wasn't the best received. Halo 4 and 5, of course, they had to release into a changing ecosystem of first-person shooters where, let's face it, Call of Duty and Battlefield were the dominant ones, and you can definitely see the influence of that.
True. However, here's the thing. It's sort of like when you watch the new Star Wars movies and you're like, wow, new Star Wars. No, fan fiction Star Wars. You have Star Wars that are not being made by the original creators. You're having essentially continuations that if you were reading a novel, these would be considered fan fiction. They're not the real thing. They're not from the real creator.
Isn't that just so sad about and this is a tangent, but Star Wars, I think they threw out the Star Wars extended universe, and they said none of them. Isn't that
now
awful?
They're bringing it. No, but now they're bringing it back. Like they're slowly. Like I'm not a big Star Wars fan like that. I'm a movie fan, right? To me, I even love the prequels. I have nothing but love for the prequels, even if they're bad. What I'm saying though is that but going back to Halo. So they're caught between needing to create a product to satisfy fan base, and they're also caught between needing to innovate. And so to me, they're in a between a rock and a hard place. They can't win. And so you have to create a game that's undeniably Halo, but at the same point something that's modernized. And they haven't been able to do that. Halo 4 was serviceable. It was a nice band-aid. Like Halo exists. Mm-hmm. Halo 5 was atrocious. Halo 5 is the worst Halo game. It is a badly, poorly plotted, mediocre first-person shooter that has essentially killed the franchise. And let me explain this. The same thing happened with another Microsoft developer when they lost Epic Games as a developer for Gears of War. Mm-hmm. I think it's called the Coalition now or something. They're essentially in the exact same spot where it is a new developer developing this franchise with expectations. They've neutered the franchise to a point where it's unrecognizable. They even changed the name from Gears of War to Gears. And so you have, instead of being big, burly, bruff, machismo stereotypes, you have slender down, slim, beanie wearing girls and, wise cracking sidekicks. It's not the same game. It's not good. Mm-hmm. Now, I just mentioned Zelda a few minutes ago, just for reference. Zelda is still being made by Nintendo. It is a complete reinvention of the franchise. It is completely different than other Zeldas.
The open world as opposed to just strictly the kind of the RPG, right?
Yes, and like we were talking about, it takes elements of all things like Dark Souls and whatever. Yeah. Yet it's undeniably, uncharacteristically Zelda. It's been modified and it works really well and it's been rewarded. Whereas Microsoft is now challenged to create to deliver new entries of old franchises, but they're just not the same anymore, Ben. I was going to say.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Stop it, LASIK man. No, I'm kidding.
You're good.
Look, here's what I think about Halo Infinite real quick. Halo Infinite is one of those things where it not only challenges to create a new game, because it's been a long time since Halo 5.
Yeah.
It has to deliver new hardware. And the problem is that 343 Studios is not the company that should have been spearheading this benchmarking. You have this game that looks colorful, looks nice, but your eyeballs know and your heart knows something seems off. And the first thing of all, you're watching a presentation for the Xbox Series X. This game was most likely running on a PC, which is not a good sign. So the problem is that we had no demonstration of the hardware. We had no demonstration of what the hardware can actually do. Not to make there's no ray tracing on the game. There's pop-in galore. I mean, you have current generation games on the PlayStation 4 that look much better than Halo Infinite. The problem also is where's the fast loading? Where's the no load times? Where's the massive open world? And we got nothing of that from Halo Infinite. I mean, if there's something wrong, and I think the developers actually admitted today that they have their work cut out for them. And to be honest with you, I still want to play it.
Yeah,
I want to try it.
I think everyone does, and let me just jump in here and say that the pedigree of Halo gives it enough clout that everyone has to pay attention to it. If it were, let's say, a new Ratchet and Clank, admittedly, some people like Ratchet and Clank, but just because it's Ratchet and Clank doesn't mean it instantly gets on everyone's radar.
The Ratchet and Clank demonstration they showed at the PlayStation thing blew Halo Infinite out of the water.
It did. Not
only did it look 100 times better, but it also showed off the power of the new hard drive where you can do multiple.
Oh, I was going to say they showed off a girl, but okay, there you go.
But seriously, but it showed what the system could do. Look, we said this before. These new consoles are not going to wow you with graphics. If you're expecting to be wowed from a PS5 or an Xbox, sorry, ain't gonna happen. That's not what these consoles are about. We're post that now. We're in something else.
Well, and speaking of Halo, I mean that the open world idea is interesting, although there is going to be load times, like you said. This article that you released here said that there's going to be free multiplayer, which I think will do a lot for the game. Just look at Call of Duty, for instance. You have to pay for the campaign and things like that, but then you have to pay for the multiplayer and the campaign, but then the Modern Warfare, Warzone is free, and that is one of the most popular games going right now.
Sure.
I think free-to-play multiplayer is huge.
I disagree with you on one thing. I disagree that Halo is a marquee franchise anymore. I think it's a franchise that has had its day in the sun. It's been usurped by many, many other franchises. It's very much a part of early Xbox success. It's very much a product of the 2000s, of the aughts, but it has not been able to keep itself in. It has not been able to keep its momentum up in any way that matters. Like, you see other franchises that have been able to do this. Like, very clearly, again, Mario and Zelda for Nintendo have been able to keep up, right? You've had Assassin's Creed reinvent itself. Keep up. Far Cry, keep up. You've had Doom reinvent itself. Whereas Halo has not, for many, many reasons. And whether that changes or not, we shall see.
I'm hoping that some of the elements of Destiny make its way over, because I know the Bungie and 343 are different, but I'm hoping that they're spiritual, like, buddies. A lot of the same things. A lot of the same, like, the ideas of abilities and items and, kind of character movement and things like that. I mean, a lot of them are so similar. I'm hoping that they've been taking those from Halo 5 into Halo Infinite.
Oh, yeah. I hope they steal better game elements. But I'll say this. Destiny has not been a success. And it has been a huge... No, it's been a huge failure. And the problem is, it was supposed to be the game that set forth games as a service. It was supposed to be this. But instead, from the very get-go, whether through Activision's interference, through Blizzard's interference, or just from intellectual stagnation as a developer, it has never been able to do what it needed to do. In fact, I believe Destiny is going free to play as well. And so the problem is that games as a service can work. It's working for Fortnite. It's working for Valorant. It's working for other games. It works for some games. But the problem is that can Halo transition to become a free to play game?
One thing that you called a little while ago, and give you credit. One thing that you called,
that never happens.
Yeah. One thing that you called a little while ago, and you mentioned it just a couple minutes ago, and I saw this reflected during the introduction of Halo Infinite, and people were actually very positive, and which is kind of rare online, but people were very positive to the Microsoft Game Pass. They were just astounded by, when you subscribe, and games as a service, when you subscribe to Microsoft Game Pass, how many good quality games you actually get with that. Like, it's not like PlayStation's, where you kind of got some indie games, or
they're
one good
better.
game a month or whatever.
They're getting better.
But Microsoft has, like, the best value for a system like that. Yes. Microsoft owns that. And it's not many things you can say that Microsoft is the best in this arena at. I mean, yeah. Like Game Pass is the future of Xbox. Like, that is the future of Xbox. That is their killer app. That is their thing. That is something that they can leverage against anything else and say, look at us. You don't have to spend $60 or $70 for Halo Infinite. If you buy Game Pass, if you have Game Pass, subscribe to it, you have Halo Infinite the day it comes out. Yeah.
You don't have to choose. You can play the game if you want. I was talking to a friend of mine I hadn't seen in a while, and we were talking about Halo 3. I told you about. He said, "Oh, how is Halo 3?" Because I had gotten him Game Pass so he could play Streets of Rage 4, another game that debuted on Game Pass. They just announced Battletoads is coming out in a couple weeks. It will be on Game Pass the first day. So these are not games you have to sit and save up. You pay $15 a month or $5 for the PC. Just get the $15 a month. Get the $50 a month. You get online play. You don't have to decide. You play it. You get the game. You can decide to play it or not. Mixer. It's still on there. Come on,
yeah,
Microsoft.
They need to fix that. This is the Game Pass website for Microsoft. And for those just listening, there's a giant logo for Mixer on it.
No.
Yeah, no.
What do they have? Where's the logo for Vista compatible? So anyway,
Facebook Gaming.
My problem, though, is that he's like, well, how is Halo 3? I was like, just play it. You have Game Pass. You don't have to ask me. You can play the game yourself. You could play Halo 3 right now if you have Game Pass on your PC. You could play it. You don't have to wait. You can play it. And because it's client-based, you're getting a very, very solid performance if you have the right hardware.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part is on Game Pass, they're going to roll in their streaming service, which I'm still not sold on, but they're rolling it into a service and they're adding value. They're doing exactly what Netflix did. They're offering a substantial value for the investment. And instead of Microsoft clawing and trying to get you to pay $60 for a game, and then clawing and trying, maybe you'll pay for some DLC later on, that $15 a month stream is far more profitable than you buying three $60 games a year. And that's like I have Spotify, and I don't know if you did this, but Popzara podcast is on Spotify now. Yay! But I've had Spotify forever, and they just introduced this plan called Duo. For $3 more, I pay $10 a month. I love Spotify. I pay $3 more, and I can get a second account for someone. Now they say live in your home, but there's ways around it. So I gave a friend Spotify. He's been overdosing on Spotify. He's like, "Oh my god, I discovered this stuff." So he would pay $10 a month to have access to all this stuff. He's listening to music he would never listen. He's listening to podcasts he'd never listen to. It's a whole new world for him. But if he had to go out to the store, if he had to purchase one thing at a time, he would never like that.
Right.
That's what it's a killer app. It is a games as a service where you get the whole game, and that's fantastic. It's awesome value. And so when Halo Infinite comes out, I don't have to say, well, do I want to? I'll just play it, make up my own mind. I'll make up my own mind, and maybe we'll like it, maybe we won't. But guess what? I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I'm so Game Pass, great value, but I gotta say, Halo Infinite, there were some problems with the launch, and there were some. Yeah, it
should not have been shown off in the state it was.
They mentioned that it was created for E3, which obviously E3 was I think canceled altogether. Like everyone else just kind of did their thing, or it was kind of like a slimmed down.
Nobody
E3.
shed any tears over that.
Yeah, but they said that the gameplay footage was shot months ago in an earlier build, as opposed to what the kind of like the cinematics and other things were shown in. So
there's something that I don't believe any of that. I believe that
you don't think so?
No. Okay, for example, the guy who runs the Xbox division, I forget his name. He's up there wearing a shirt that says Halo Infinite, but he's also wearing a blazer over it that covers the letters. The optics on the Microsoft show were so poor and terrible. Nobody was in charge to make sure that this show presented the future of Xbox in a way that was attractive. It was so poorly mismanaged, so poorly run. And they deserve all the scorn they're getting. Sure, I'm sure Halo Infinite's going to look better than it showed. I'm sure. But the problem is it should have never been shown like this. Like, it's embarrassing. This is an embarrassing demonstration. Like, you just went to the Game Pass site. It said Mixer on it.
Yeah.
Who the hell is on board there? I guarantee you someone is working at Microsoft. Their job is continuity, and they are failing. Like, come on. You got 3 million nerds out there going to look at you. Trust me, those nerds will spot everything. Everything. Come on.
There's
it's poor quality control on their part, on their demonstration.
Room for improvement, but there you go. So Halo Infinite, you're looking forward to it. That's what I gathered from that. Even through all that,
I'll say this. It doesn't bother me that the game looked janky.
Mm-hmm.
Games always look janky, right? Let me say this. Segue. I have been playing a game that I never played before. Speaking of 2007 games, I have been playing Crysis on my Switch.
I saw that up on your website. You have like a Crysis remastered?
I didn't review it. Yeah, I didn't review it. But Crysis Remastered was supposed to come out for all the consoles. It only came out on the Switch. So I couldn't play Crysis in 2000. I didn't have a NASA supercomputer, right? And then eventually
that was a joke. Can it run Crysis? Yes.
Can it run Crysis? So then the game came to consoles. It came to PS3 and Xbox 360. By that time, though, there were much, much, much more high-profile games. I just never got into Crysis. I never got into it. But now we've got time. And I heard such good things from Corey. I heard such good things from Digital Foundry. I had heard such good things. So I took the chance, and I'm glad I did. Does the game look the best Crysis ever looked? Not even close. Does the game look a little weird sometimes? Yes, it does. But the game is so much fun to play. It is the genesis of the Far Cry games, right? It is the genesis of these open world Far Cry games. And it runs well enough. And I think most people are like that. I think most people don't need pixel perfect, super duper quality things. If you can find a trailer for Crysis and watch it move, it's very impressive when it moves. And the fact that you're playing Crysis on a portable tablet is insane. Like, that's just insane to me. Younger Nathan would have just called you a liar and kicked you out of the house. But it's a 13-year-old game, but it's still a good game. And a good game will overcome any of its visual deficiencies. Like, visuals are not as important as people make them out to be. Like, graphics really don't matter as much as people think. Performance matters.
Yeah, performance, and of course you can get by with art style for so many ways, and
exactly. And like the most disappointing thing for me at the Halo Infinite thing, and we can move on from this, is when I saw that human character with the beard. It looks so garish. It's like, this is not Fortnite. Like, do not turn Halo into Fortnite, because you see them just devolve the art styles of so many games to this ugly, high performing, hyper cartoonish, like unrealistic, like Popeye the Sailor Man looking stupid character, and it doesn't look right. But
I will say that is one thing I think Halo could do better is that, well, I mean, most first-person shooters don't have this because it's a first-person shooter, but they have such a universe to expand on, and really, if you kind of told me to name all the characters, there's was it Sergeant Johnson, there's Master Chief, there's Cortana,
Master Chief and Arbiter, and Cortana.
There's only a handful of characters that you really kind of know, and especially as far as just everyday people go. Past Johnson, I mean, that's about it. So I think they need to introduce more characters.
Look at Crysis, though. Look at this on the Switch. That's running pretty good. Like, that's running on your portable. That's a portable game. Like, that's insane.
So for those who are just listening, we're watching some of the gameplay from Crysis. I just pulled up at random from
you saw it slow down.
Yeah,
it was chugging a little bit, but it's
there's
fine.
A little bit of motion blur going on here, and some things to ease the graphics card, but it's still going. Yeah.
It's Crysis on a Switch. But the funny thing is, the game, for all its deficits, both in gameplay and graphics, as 13 years old, it's still fun. It's still a fun game, and this is the first time I've ever experienced it, and I'm like, wow, I wonder how many other people are going to experience Crysis for the first time on a Switch. And you know what? It's not bad. It's fun. It's the game. So
I will definitely take it. Let's go ahead and transition because we're at this rate, we're only going to get like a couple stories. Let's transition a little bit, and let's see. So we have all these different stories here. We actually talk about Spotify real quick because we mentioned them as a service, and Spotify consumption rate, obviously, because a lot of people are stuck at home. You would think that, well, Spotify is, when you're driving, when you're commuting, that's where they're going to shine. But here, looks like their listenership has gone up pretty darn well. Their subscribers and all that kind of thing. For people staying at home and having access to so many different kinds of services and content, looks like Spotify did not fall off the table, which is nice.
Which is true, but not only because of the pandemic, but because of all the influx of new content, specifically podcasts. Don't forget, they very famously, besides Popzara, of course, that was a big news. They got Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I heard about that.
They snatched Joe Rogan, and he's bringing that enormous clout. And unlike the Twitch people, Twitch and Mixer, it seems like Joe Rogan has had an effect on Spotify. When you go from YouTube to Spotify, that's a big deal, and so. It's had literally a halo effect where now someone who's listening to Joe Rogan might switch over to listen to a playlist. It's a great opportunity. Spotify has done what iTunes was supposed to do, and that is synergize music between the different different genres, podcast, music videos. Haven't done it because trying to use iTunes Music or Apple Music, it's like trying to have fun in North Korea. Like, it's possible. Very difficult.
Are you saying that things are kind of sectioned off from each other?
Well, I'll put it this way. When you look at a map of Korea, South Korea and North Korea, like South Korea looks all populated, so big, and then you look at North Korea,
lights, yeah,
it's flat. It's like looking at like an old video game. It's like there's nothing there. It's just barren. And so and that's what Apple Music is compared to Spotify. Apple Music, you need an Apple device. I don't even think there's a web version of it for the most part.
There's a Windows version. That's something.
Is there a Windows version? You have to use iTunes.
Yeah.
You have to use iTunes to listen to Apple Music.
True.
Yuck. That's like cranking out like DirectX 9 on a Vista machine just so you can play an old game.
Hey, at least we don't have to listen on our Zunes, okay? It's something.
Exactly.
It's something.
But it's so hard to listen on Apple Music. Whereas Spotify is like, wherever you got. We got browsers, we got video games, we got phones, we got everything. It's better on iPhone than Apple Music is. And you play it on there, it's just so easy and seamless. Credit where credit's due. And so it's to me, when people are ready to listen again, to me, that they're rewarding the service that makes it easy to enjoy, then of course it's going to happen. Of course it's going to happen. It's the same with Netflix, by the way. Same with Netflix and some of the other streaming services. Like the ones that make it easier for you to listen on things or watch are the ones that are going to be rewarded. I don't want to get into it right now, but you hear horror stories about HBO Max on different devices. You hear horror stories about these services that CBS Interactive that should have been ironed out months before the service ever rolled out. They don't know what they're doing. Like they just pointing at Netflix and saying, "I want that. Give me what they got." Oh, streaming. No, you got to work this stuff out.
I saw, and speaking about the differences between the different services, just recently they put out, kind of who's putting out the most original content between all the different streaming services, and I mean like video streaming, so on and so forth. And Netflix, because of their multi-billions of dollars year-over-year investment in content, good or bad, I'm not arguing that one. They put out as much content as all the other streaming services combined. Like Disney only put out like 17 original things for their streaming service. Everything else was kind of like a re-upload or old movies or a play or something like that. They only put out 17, whereas Netflix had like 420 something new programming.
To be fair, like you said, that is their model though. I mean, Netflix's model is creation of services. Disney's model is to regurgitate. Like Disney's model was always to be like, 50-50. We'll take movies that were in the theater and we'll put them on Disney Plus. Like that's going to help.
They did have the television, channel though, so they did create things. But my point real quick with that, my point with that real quick though was, people were looking for any little thing that they could get over Netflix, and they landed on this report that was kind of sent to me, and it was that here's how all the other streaming services are beating Netflix, and they're like the average critic rating of the content. Netflix is kind of like middle of the road, middle of the pack. Everyone else has like higher critical rating or awards or whatever, but at the same time, it's like 400 versus 17. Of course it's going to be better.
The critical ratings mean absolutely bupkis. They mean nothing. And the fact of the matter is that these companies are very used to it. And I'll be honest with you, if you're listening, I want your listeners to understand this is someone who has been, I don't want to use the word professional, but I will, has been professionally in the reviewing business for a very long time and knows a thing or two. Chances are the review you're reading for your game, your movie, your song, whatever, is probably BS. It's probably a product of months and months of seeding and watering and nurturing. And that's not to say it's not accurate, but it's a product that has been placed in front of you for consumption. A review is no longer a review. A review has a life of its own. A review could be on Rotten Tomatoes. It could be on Metacritic. It could be on Game Rankings. It could be on allmusic.com. It goes into a giant stew pot, a miasma, if you will, that gets regurgitated on algorithms upon algorithms upon algorithms. And for one example, when they were still doing reviews, they would say, hey, we have Captain Marvel coming out. So what are we going to do? We're going to cherry pick a select number of reviewers that we know are positive to strong female characters. And we will fly them out, put them in a hotel, wine and dine them, tell them how great and powerful they are, let them talk to Brie Larson. There's no damn way these people are not going to come out with sparkles in their eyes. Mm-hmm. And then it goes into a Twitter machine, gets on Rotten Tomatoes, boom. And then you see the system try to close upon itself, Ben, where they say, well, on Metacritic, we're no longer going to allow same-day user reviews. We're going to take that out because, heaven forbid, we don't want to know what real people think. We're going to Rotten Tomatoes is going to take out the user reviews for 30-day period.
And these reviews, like there is work to be done, because I think that there are Steam recently banned, I think it was like community moderator or something like that, reviews on Steam, where like Halo Infinite was announced last week. It's announced a long time ago, but anyways, they had community members that were allowed to rate Halo 5 or Halo Infinite already. Like they were already giving it reviews. It's not even out in alpha, let alone beta.
You haven't played it. You haven't played it. And so That's the other side. That what you're talking about is troll bombing and review bombing. That is a result of this manipulation by these big companies. And so far, you have companies that can manipulate and create the illusion that things are better than they are. And so you want to get on the back of the box. You want to get somewhere, and it's taken the fun out of reviews where you're no longer reading a review to get information. You're reading or listening or watching a review so you can validate your experience. You can say, well, I love this game. This game's so great. This is the greatest thing in the world. Like, for example, I don't want to get into it, The Last of Us 2 on the PlayStation 4. Like, people were, bombing. And, I heard this game is bad. I heard this game is bad. I don't want to play this. I heard this game is bad. Game sold millions. It's still going to work because it doesn't work either way. The average person can make up their own mind. So the age of the review is gone. And what it is, like we talked about the esports, what do the people that I like think? What is the Twitcher that I like, the streamer, what do they think? Now, the person who streams Last of Us 2 may hate Sonic the Hedgehog, may hate Mario, but they really love Last of Us 2. And you might give it a chance. But the idea that you need to create a positive review cycle out of this anymore is over. It's completely gone. Thank goodness.
Yeah,
It's worthless.
I will say though that this review bombing campaign that happens to
I hate that too, but I think it's despicable.
I mean, and I've seen some people try to justify it by saying that is the voice of the community. If that many people are downvoting it, then they have a legitimate grievance against it. And I'm like, no, they have an idea that went viral. It's like saying that I don't know, cats all need to do something really adorable that cats do because they saw a video and it got 10 million views, and therefore that's the standard all cats do.
Here's the thing. Amazon got in trouble for this before because Amazon was allowing people to review products they had not purchased. Yeah. Here's the thing. The answer is very simple. Do not allow someone to contribute a review unless they bought the product or received the product.
Steam got ahead of that. Steam,
yeah. You need to validate that you have ownership of the product. If you do, then even if you're review bombing, then at least the company got some money out of it. The fact of the matter is that if I'm on Amazon, there's two types of reviews I can't stand. One, I got this product. It's great, but the box had a scratch. 1 star. Or
it was late or something. Yeah.
Or I don't like this person's politics. 0 stars. Because people do this. They weaponize the review system. Because again, everything I just told you was known years ago. Because they know the algorithm of the reviews is more important than the reviews itself. It's like a reverse DNS attack. Like, I can review bomb you into oblivion, so your 1-star book or 1-star game never hits critics' top picks, never hits that, because we review bombed it senseless, so it will never reach top results. And they know this too, because that's what the online service is. It's all algorithmic garbage. And so, but the podcast, the Twitch shows like this. Yeah. They circumvent this nonsense and they allow you to get a better sense of it. And I'll be honest with you, going back to Last of Us 2, for example, which you and I apologize, you and I were supposed to talk about last month. The game is perfectly fine. It's a good game.
Yeah.
It may be not what you wanted, but tough titties. Life is like that. You don't always get what you want. You don't always get what you want.
That's what I noticed, and that was a big part of what the review bombing was that people didn't like how the story turned out, but they weren't rating the game on is it a good story or is it a good game.
Can I say one last thing? Final thought on this whole thing.
Sure.
But the developers and publishers need to do a better job too, because they've created this machine, and they should not be surprised that the monster bit back. When you put your hands on the scale to try to manipulate.
Do you think they cared though? That's a good question. Do you think they actually cared?
They really should care, because pissing off your user base is not a good business model. You've seen it with games. You've seen it with movies like Ghostbusters. You've seen it. Like, do not insult the people that you want money from. It doesn't mean you have to placate them and call them angels and everything. But maybe, and you see this with artists a lot. You see this with musicians. Maybe just don't say anything. Maybe let the product speak for itself. Like, you never hear Shigeru Miyamoto out there talking about how great Mario is. You never hear these people talk about this. Just let me play the game. Let me just talk about the good stuff of it. Talk about the positivity. But getting political about it and getting sub-level political about it. And I'd be very careful, and I'll be very quick. Whatever's in the headlines today, like, I can't listen to 5 podcasts a week without hearing Donald Trump. And these people think they're so funny. Oh, everybody agrees with me. Well, even if I agree with you, I'm listening to a podcast to get away from it. I really want a break. I don't want to be reminded that we live in a pandemic. I would like a break from this stuff. And a lot of people do too. And just because you agree with me doesn't mean I'm going to listen to you. In fact, I may not listen to you because I agree with you, because I need a damn break. And so video games, like, I get it. People made a big deal about the transgender elements in Last of Us 2, which basically are not really there. Oh, we turned the main character into a gay character. But so what?
Yeah.
Like, so what? Like, how does that affect the game? And I guess what I'm saying is final thought. The arguments are not intelligent. These are not thoughtful discussions we're having. These are base level, surface level things that drive me up the wall. And I ignore them.
I can definitely tell.
Yeah.
To circle back around real quick, Spotify listenership up, but I do want to highlight one little thing, because you have 2 podcasts that you do, if not multiple. I know that you have one where you talk about the
I got my
games.
fingers in a few pies.
Yeah. So you do podcasts. Of course, we have a podcast version of the show that goes out, and according to Spotify, looks like about 1 out of every 5 people, about 21% of the people who use Spotify, use it for podcasting. So
that's a lot.
I'm happy to say that I think podcasting is getting more traction. Where, I think, Nathan, you've been long enough on the show that we all saw that coming. Traditional media was, just podcasting is just so perfect for the way that technology is set up. So
you're starting to see podcasts are becoming like YouTube videos a little bit, whereas you're starting to see Hollywood infiltrate the industry.
I have noticed how traditional media is starting to release companion podcasts for their services.
Those aren't podcasts. Like NPR, All Things Considered, those aren't podcasts. Those are radio shows that have been regurgitated to be a podcast.
Cough.
Exactly. Hey, exactly. like welcome to NPR. We are listening here.
They're very
get someone with
soothing.
treble. Yeah, put me to sleep. But like, people get in a car accident. What happened? No, he's driving while listening to NPR. He fell asleep. No, but what I do is a podcast, because we have microphones. We are, we have mistakes. We have glitches. We have stumble. Not so much on the Popzara podcast. It's a product of perfection. But the idea is but it's more fun because it's spontaneous. Like, for example, if I could just do a little self-promotion.
Sure.
We had a composer on, which I sent to you. We had Elon Eshkari, who's he's a very famous movie composer. He's done things like Layer Cake. He's done Kick-Ass. He's done a lot of stuff.
And of course, Ghost of Tsushima,
which is why we had him there, because he was called to compose the soundtrack for the PlayStation 4 game Ghost of Tsushima.
Very cool. By the way, I've pretty much I not buy it and play it myself, but I did watch entire playthroughs of it.
Very pretty game.
What a gorgeous game. Yeah.
Yeah, really pretty. And so, but we talk about it. And he's on Zoom, and we're recording on Zoom, and we usually do this. And the quality is not the greatest, right? It's not super microphones, but he's a fun guy. We get to talk to him. A podcast allows someone like me, who's primarily in the written world, to be able to communicate audibly. And there are things you can do to make it better. Like, for those who don't know, Ben has a major setup. He's got more equipment in his room than the Unabomber had typewriters. But it's to make the experience better, because you don't, like, the audience doesn't know this. The audience just knows the product you put out, and you put out a good product. And you do this because you care about things like latency. You care about things. Most of the new media, it's funny to me when I see like Hollywood or whatever come to make podcasts, and they
that's something that I noticed too. That my setup here in the studio here is probably better than the majority of NBC, Fox, CNN. When people had to like quickly transition because of COVID to kind of recording in their closet, my setup was definitely better than a lot of the major broadcasters.
You see them like an old earbud dangling out one ear. They're back like
or
10
like
feet
just
from the
earpods or AirPods. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just funny, and that's fine too. Again, that doesn't bother me. It's what we love about podcasts, but you cannot replicate this cleansed version of television. It feels icky. It feels icky on a podcast. You want messiness. You want the occasional F-bomb. You want this sort of thing. So like when I was talking to this guy, right? When I was talking to Elon, he was a fun guy. We started talking about Star Wars. We started just getting off on a tangent because we could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had to talk to other people too, right? Fun guy. But you would never have that on a written thing. You would never have that. And 20 years ago, unless I worked at a magazine like I used to, I would never be able to talk to someone like this.
Right.
And they brought that down, and that's pretty cool. And that's what I love about podcasts. But I don't need Hollywood sticking their fingers in that pot if they're going to do it wrong.
It's unfortunately the way it's going to go, especially with you mentioned Joe Rogan. I mean, he is as big of a mainstream contributor now as anyone else. Like his audience is bigger.
He's bigger than anybody on TV.
Yeah.
Like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has more listeners than all of the nightly hosts combined. He's got more than everybody on Fox, CNN. Like these people on Fox and CNN and MSNBC, they maybe get 500,000 people. Like Trevor Noah on The Daily Show, if he's lucky, he gets 200,000 people. Joe Rogan gets 30 million people a month. That's insane.
Yeah, and when you hit those kind of numbers, you are the mainstream, and unfortunately, you're talking about some of the messiness. Advertisers expect cleanliness when you start doing this kind of thing. So,
but advertisers will stick with you if the impact is there. Like, I don't want to get into review bombing, but review bombing, like we talked about review bombing. Fox News. I don't like Tucker Carlson. I'll go after Mr. Pillow or whatever. Like that works up to a point. Unless the advertisers agree with the message, and the advertiser will stay because if the audience is big enough, they can survive review bombing, they can sustain it. And again, this is a brave new world. We're gonna have to see how it plays out.
There's definitely going to be some a transition where podcasts there's already that schism where it's kind of
real quick. I'm going to interrupt you. I'm watching your live feed, and I see all these things. You can listen to Computer America on iHeartRadio, on Deezer, whatever. Yeah. This is why Spotify has been so successful. Like iTunes, they are a singular platform that you do not have to get something else. It is an addition. So you don't have to download a new app. You don't have to go to a new service. You already got the service. It's right there. And that is why they've become so successful. I believe after iTunes are the second most successful podcast network.
I believe it.
Simply because they're already there.
We're actually on Spotify as well. So hey, listen to Computer America on Spotify.
We're brothers now.
Absolutely. So with and by the way, I think that Pandora purchased someone else. Like a lot of these podcasting services. It was oh my God, Stitcher. Stitcher was purchased by Pandora, I think. So
Stitcher's interesting. Stitcher's really interesting. It's
They were one of the original podcast distribution hubs, and Can
I be honest?
Yeah.
If you don't have an iPhone, iPhone has the podcast app, which I know some people don't like, but the iPhone is the best podcasting phone, bar none. But if you only have an Android phone, Stitcher is really good. Like it's a really good alternative for Android people.
Yeah, they've been around for so long. They have podcasting down to a science. But hey, what we're seeing is a consolidation of I have a number here kind of displayed on the show. But yeah, I think you're right that obviously you have to be on Apple Podcast, and then after that Spotify, and then after that Google Podcast if you want to, and then all the others are starting to
Google's
consolidate.
So poor at this. It's a poor service. Like it is so hard. You cannot do anything. Are you on Google? You're on Google, right?
We're on all of them. Yeah.
What a mess. Can I just say that? It is a mess. You can't do anything. You got to contact customer service. No. Google, get your act together. Get your act.
Yeah, after perfecting Gmail and documents and all that kind of thing, you think they'd be pretty good at it. But
it's really bad, isn't it? Like the interface is really.
And YouTube,
you can't do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. So with that being said, just real quick, this is one story I wanted to get in before the end of the show. We have like 2 minutes, and it's going to be a quick one because I don't think there's a lot here really to discuss. But Nvidia is looking to buy ARM, and for about $32 billion. For those of you who don't know, ARM is the chip manufacturer. Essentially, anything with a mobile processor is made by ARM and uses ARM technology.
Aren't the new MacBooks supposed to be using ARM, or they're using a mobile chip?
Even if they are, I think Apple has a plan to switch them all over eventually to their own chipset. But
what's funny?
Most Apple products were.
People don't know this. Apple helped found ARM. They were an early investor.
I think I knew about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like not a major.
They invested.
They were part of it. So I don't know. Yeah, the Apple's supposed to be switching over to ARM-based processors, which is very, very different. Like
off of the x86 from Intel. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which was a big deal, by the way. But Intel's been suffering. So Intel has been suffering. I don't want to dance on their grave right now, but We'll see.
But Intel needed a little bit of kick in the pants after what's been happening with their research and development. Like, don't get me wrong, I probably could not do a 7 nanometer processor, but they really have to get off the ground. So I'm glad that they made some changes, and I really do hope the best for Intel. But with that being said, Nathan, we are flat out of time. If people want to go to popzara.com, of course, there we've talked a lot about a lot of different things you can find there. But anything else you'd like to highlight over at Popzara?
No, I just there's a bunch of fun stuff over there. Again, we're doing what we can to try to keep up with the pandemic, give you something good to read and watch. Go read, and share it if you like us. Share it, and Ben too. Computer America, both Spotify buddies.
There you go. Of course. And hey, you can find us on social media. I'm sure that you can reach Nathan, you can reach myself, you can reach all of us. We love to interact with you. So with that being said, Nathan, we are flat out of time. Everyone else out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.